My name is Gerald Chambers. I'm a marriage and family therapist. Today I wanted to share an article I found on iResearchNet.com entitled Self-Regulation. Self-regulation refers to the self exerting control over itself. Self-regulation consists of the deliberate effort by the self to exert control. The concept is used interchangeably with the idea of self-control and self-discipline. Modern self-regulation theory has many roots. One is the study of animal learning. Skinnerian behaviorists taught that animals learn new behaviors through a series of punishments and rewards. The second root is in research on delay of gratification. In the 60s, a scientist named Walter Mischel studied how people would choose between a small immediate reward and delay to receive a larger reward later. When we're faced with a small reward now, it takes energy and effort to delay our gratification to achieve a greater reward later. The third root is in the study of self-awareness. In the 70s, researchers studied how people's behavior changed when they focused their attention on themselves. The fourth root of self-regulation theory is in the study is research on human personal problems, many of which revolve around failures at self-regulation. How important is self-regulation? Self-regulation theory has implications for both psychological theory and for practical applied issues. Self-regulation theory has come to be one of the most important areas of study in all of psychology. Self-regulation is one of the most important operations of the human self. The human capacity for self-regulation appears to be more advanced and powerful than in all other animals. And it helps set the human self apart from selfhood in all other species. Some theorists believe that self-regulation was the decisive key to human evolution. Self-regulation depicts the self as an active controller. Social psychology's early theories focused on such topics as self-concept and self-knowledge. And in that sense, the self was treated as an accumulated set of ideas. Self-regulation theory recognizes the self as an active agent that measures, decides, and intervenes in its own process to change them. Some psychologists link self-regulation to the philosophical idea of self-will. Most personal and social problems that plague the world have something to do with self-regulation failure at their core. These include addiction, alcoholism, binge eating, gambling, violence, crime, underachievement, anger management, and other emotional control problems. Aggressive and antisocial impulses are often linked to poor self-regulation. Sexual problems, including unwanted pregnancies and STDs, can be decreased with improved self-regulation. Money problems in the form of gambling losses, failure to save for the future, or impulsive shopping and credit card debt can also indicate inadequate self-regulation. Many health problems can be prevented by adequate self-regulation, like making sure you brush your teeth, see the doctor regularly, exercise, eating properly. Self-regulation appears to be an important predictor of success in life. People with good self-regulation have been shown to be more stable in relationships, more popular, to get better grades in school and college, to have fewer personal pathologies, and to have better adjustment. Self-regulation is also a key to moral behavior, and some theorists have argued that it's the master virtue that underlies most or all virtuous behavior, because such behavior typically requires self-regulation in order to make proper choices. Usually it requires overcoming an antisocial or immoral impulse, like to cheat, harm, or betray someone. to do what is morally valued. So, self-regulation standards and goals. Effective self-regulation requires standards that indicate how something should ideally be. Researchers discovered that when people reflect on themselves, they don't just reflect on themselves, they reflect on the ideals that they have about themselves and how they should behave. We compare ourselves to a standard. And those ideas have to do with our own standards or someone else's standards or society's standards, or just on the average person. So self-regulation begins by noticing discrepancies between like where I am and where I want to be, the person I am right now and the person I would like to be. And self-regulation can be impaired if if I'm getting mixed signals about the standards. Like if one parent says one thing or does one thing and the other parent does something else, then my standards get confused and children can have difficulty with that. So a lack of clear standards makes self-regulation difficult. Self-regulation goals can be sorted into two types: prevention and promotion. Obviously, preventative self-regulation focuses on something that I want to avoid doing. And promotional self-regulation focuses on something that I would like to do, and it urges me to approach it. A related distinction is between ideal and ought standard. Ideals are positive ideas about how one would like to be. Ought standards are like moral codes that we really want to try to avoid, and they center on the importance of trying to avoid those types of behavior. Now, the standards in and of themselves don't automatically activate self-regulation. People must be motivated to change. Now, why people choose their standards and why they avoid them or abandon them from time to time, that's an area that needs to be studied more. Monitoring and feedback loops in self-regulation is important. Obviously, monitoring is like keeping track of how you're doing. It's almost impossible to regulate a behavior without monitoring it. Imagine trying to have a successful diet or a successful budget without ever monitoring how you're doing. What you're eating, what you're spending. Many experts believe that the main function of self-awareness is so that you can regulate and monitor your behavior. Monitoring is more than just being aware of your behavior. It's comparing it to that standard we talked about. Like, where are we? Poor monitoring is an important reason why people fail at self-regulation. People lose control when they stop keeping track of their behavior. Alcohol intoxication, getting high. It leads to a lot of self-regulation failure. We lose track of our emotions. We lose track of time. We lose track of how to control ourselves, overeating, or maybe violent reactivity. And that's partly because intoxicated people fail to monitor their behavior. The simplest way to improve your self-regulation is to monitor your behavior. And the easiest way to do that is to keep some external records, like write some things down, keep track. Like if you want to improve your budget or improve your diet, write down what you spend, write down what you eat, and you can compare it and stay aware of what you're doing. A lot of this comes from like how they want to try to guide rockets. They get feedback. Also like other mechanically controlled devices, they use an acronym called TOTE, T-O-T-E. Test, operate, test, exit. When you think about a thermostat, the thermostat is set. It tests the environment to see if there's a discrepancy between the set rate and the room temperature. If there is a discrepancy, then it operates to come on to change the temperature in the room so that it matches the standard. As the operate phase continues, more tests are done to make sure that the room is matching up with the standard, and those tests will indicate whether progress is being made, whether the temperature in the room is matching the standard, the set point. If the reality is still short of the standard, then it continues to operate. And if not, then it turns off. If it matches the standard, it turns off. And the test, the test that it does on the room reveals whether or not it's matching it or not. There's no need for further tests, and the loop is exited, and the thermostat turns off. The thermostat turns the heater off, the exit phase. But now, unlike machines, we humans, we feel emotions during self-regulation. When we notice a difference between the standard and where we are, we can feel some negative emotion, such as guilt, sadness, shame, or disappointment. Reaching our goal or the standard can help, we feel good. We feel those positive emotions like joy, satisfaction, and relief. However, it's not necessary to reach the goal completely in order to feel good. Sometimes we can feel good from sensing some progress. And in this way, those positive emotions can reinforce our effort to move toward the standard. Self-regulation takes some strength, but it also depletes our strength. Successful self-regulation depends on our ability to bring about the changes necessary to reach our goal. It's not enough just to have a goal or a standard and to move toward it. We got to have the energy to do it. We got to have the strength to do it. We got to have the willpower and capacity to reach our goals. And some people knowingly, we all from time to time knowingly do things to sabotage our progress, to prevent us from reaching our goals. The word willpower, that means that we have some sort of strength or some sort of power that we use that helps us reach our goals. But just like the muscle, power in a muscle, we can lose it. We can consider self-regulation to be a limited energy resource. Human beings, we're a limited energy resource. We have so much energy when we wake up each day, and we spend it in different ways. Sometimes we spend it in support of what we want to do, and sometimes we spend it not knowing that it undermines our goals. Exerting self-regulation uses our energy. It uses some of our resources. And it weakens us. They call that ego depletion. And in that state, when we're weakened, when ego depletion, or when we are low on energy, we seem to be less capable of moving toward our goals or spending our energy on things that might help us move that way. We just don't have it. Can't give what you don't have. And it's more difficult for us to control, to manage our self-control when we're tired. Fatigue makes cowards of all men. I don't know who said that, but that's not an original statement. I found that someplace else. I don't know who said that, but that's important. The same energy resources are used for a number of different things. Self-regulation and to make decisions. Now, consider you're a limited energy resource. So if you spend up all your energy playing computer games and outfoxing the algorithms, right, you may have depleted yourself. So when you get to school, you don't have the energy, or you get to your job, you don't have the energy to do, you feel tired already, and you might procrastinate, you might put things off, you might sabotage your effort to move towards your standard or whatever it is you want to accomplish. You might start smoking again, you might have an emotional outburst. Things don't roll off your back as easy. There's evidence that suggests that your strength can be improved with exercise, just like with a normal muscle. So if I practice self-regulation, I get better at it. The Buddhists understand that. That's why they practice meditation. Meditation is a way to manage your own self-regulation. They practice, they get good at it, so emotions and thoughts and feelings roll off their back. They don't get too caught up in it. That's the beautiful thing about meditation. That's one of the big reasons why it should be practiced, why I'm an advocate. And the more I conserve my energy, I have it to spend in other places so I can get better in other areas. Different people are different with self-regulation for different reasons and in different degrees. And our ability at self-regulation can fluctuate over time and circumstances. Remember the marshmallow test? They tested children, right? You can have one marshmallow right now, or if you can wait 20 minutes, you can have 2 marshmallows. Well, the kids that could do that, they followed them longitudinally, and they found out that those kids actually turned out better in school, because they had the ability to self-regulate. So they were higher achievers and did better. I guess if you're good at self-regulation early in your life and you stick with it, you can be good at it later in life, maybe have better outcomes. Although self-regulation is really important and it offers us a great chance to improve our lives once we understand it, it does have some limitations. The more you try to self-regulate, consecutive efforts like that, it depletes you. It makes it more difficult for you to regulate in different areas. And then the other thing is not all behaviors can be regulated. Many behaviors are automatic and not really regulated by my own self-control, impulse control. Like my ability to control my impulses. Like you think about a person that's addicted, right? They get the impulse to a thought or a feeling, an impulse to, smoke or drink, which they cannot control. But what they can control is their reaction to that impulse. And sometimes I think where people fail is they try to control the wrong part of it. They try to control the impulse, which is, we got thoughts and feelings. We don't know when that stuff is coming up, right? But all we can control is our behavior. Addicts knew that. That's why they came up with the serenity prayer. It was like the difference between what I can control and what I can't control. The wisdom to know the difference. Like controlling my affect, my feelings, right? I'm limited. I'm powerless. That's what addicts talk about. Being powerless over thoughts and feelings. Powerless. I'm not powerless over my behavior, but I'm powerless over my thoughts and feelings. So if I use up all my limited energy resource trying to control the part of it that I can't control, I'm less likely to be able to control my behavior because I've depleted myself. I've used up myself working on the wrong part of the problem. You can't control your emotional state just because you decide to. Control your behavior, but not how you feel. Emotions tend to be beyond conscious control. Now, you got some Buddhists, some practicing meditators that have greater control than I do, but, they practice. They've strengthened themselves in that area. Now, in order to control my affect, my feelings, I usually have to distract myself. I can induce a different emotion, or I can calm myself down. That's about all I can really do with my emotions. There's a big debate about the extent to which self-regulation, failure, stems from irresistible impulses or simply acquiescence. Many people say, I just couldn't resist, such as when they spent too much money or drank too much or did something they didn't want to do. But the research indicates that most people could resist if they were motivated, if they had greater motivation to resist. And I would say if they knew how. Self-deception may also play a part in the reason why people find themselves defeated when it comes down to self-regulation. Now there are some irresistible impulses, like to breathe or to sleep or to urinate. I got to do some things. But once my self-regulation breaks down, it's a slippery slope. Other things start to fail. I have those lapses. Like people in addicts. Once I may be doing fine until I take the first one. Then when I take the first drink, I tell myself that, well, since I don't meet the standard, I might as well keep drinking. The gambler. Once I go in and go down 100, then I tell myself, well, I'm going to play until I win it back. And then I lose everything. Dieters, following a good diet, doing everything I need to do. And then I had that one Twinkie. And then since I don't match the standard anymore, since I'm not perfect anymore, since I didn't meet my goal anymore, then I might as well, since I had one, I might as well eat 2 or 3. I might as well go and eat the whole cake or whole pie or whatever. Smoker. Once I had that first cigarette, I might as well smoke a whole pack now. I'm defeated. That spiraling process can turn a slip into a dive and a full-fledged disaster. If you like this video, hit the like button, leave me a comment, subscribe. Thanks for listening.